everyone, Whitney here, and welcome to another episode of The Sitch. Today I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend and fellow registered dietitian nutritionist, Amylee Amos.
Hi everybody.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are excited to hear what you have to say. So Amylee is the owner and founder of the Amos Institute, which specializes in treating neurodegenerative diseases. Yeah. And she is actually implementing a protocol that was developed by leading brain science researchers and involves dietary interventions to treat some of these devastating diseases. Yeah, and so we want to hear more about exactly what you're doing in your practice.
Okay, so at the Amos Institute, we have a singular focus, as you've mentioned, Alzheimer's disease and other types of cognitive decline and neurodegeneration. And what we do is we help people develop nutrition programs and lifestyle protocols that prevent cognitive decline or reverse Alzheimer's. And we do this using what's called the Bredesen Protocol.
Reverse. You guys heard that, right? So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, many people think that there isn't anything you can really do to turn back the clock on the devastating effects of Alzheimer's, but according to this new research, there are treatments. So tell us about that.
So a lot of people get hung up on the word cure. And when we talk about a cure being a magic bullet pharmaceutical solution to like you said, a devastating disease, then you're right. There is no cure.
But no magic pill.
There is no magic pill, unfortunately. But what we know is that Alzheimer's disease can be prevented, it can be stopped, and it can be reversed. And when I say reversed, I need to be really clear about what that means. That means we see all symptoms go away. We also see a change in brain physiology. So in an Alzheimer's patient where their brain has shrunk as a result of the disease, we can see now through volumetric MRIs that their brain volume comes back.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Seriously, groundbreaking stuff you guys
Totally
are doing.
Groundbreaking. It's awesome. Yeah.
So what can you tell us about the protocol specifically? Is there a specific diet that patients follow?
Yeah, so I wish it was as simple as one specific diet. Life would be much easier. But it's highly individualized patient to patient. And we individualize it based on a number of tests that we run. Mm-hmm. So some of these tests are really basic things like a fasting blood glucose, fasting insulin. We do lots of tests that measure inflammatory status. Mm-hmm. But then we do more specific tests like genetic testing. We look at different tests that tell us the integrity of their gut, the integrity of their blood-brain barrier. So once we have all of that information, the metabolics and the genetics, we put the pieces together to create a program that fits within this Bredesen protocol. That being said, there are generalized things that most everyone on the program does.
Okay, so what are some foods that you encourage people to eat?
Yeah, so I would say the general basis of the diet is that it's whole foods. Meaning,
whole foods.
Yeah, so it is foods in their least processed state whenever possible. And it is a predominantly plant-based diet. So that's exciting.
Always love to hear that.
Exactly. So, and by plant-based, I mean these patients are eating 10 to 15 servings of non-starchy vegetables per day. Which, you can easily imagine how that is. I mean, you're eating a lot of food, and it's all vegetables, and the plate is very colorful and again non-starchy because these patients need all of the nutrition, the phytochemicals that come from that volume of vegetables. Okay.
So does this help fight some of that inflammation that's associated with Alzheimer's?
Yes, definitely. Inflammation, also a lot of mitochondrial damage, and a whole host of other reasons why we need all of those nutrients. Other major components that we include are healthy fats. So we can get into this at some point if you want, but most of these patients are in a state of what's called mild ketosis, meaning they need to eat a lot of fats in their diet. And by healthy fats, I mean lots of
everybody has a different definition.
Should we talk coconut oil?
For healthy fats, what do you think about coconut oil?
Favorite subject. So it's mostly monounsaturated fats.
Okay.
We also do a lot of good, healthy polyunsaturated fats and healthy saturated fats, definitely. So coconut oil is certainly utilized by a lot of these patients.
Okay. So a lot of nuts, seeds, avocado.
Yeah, good healthy oils, good healthy cooking oils. All of that is a major component. Then of course we include lean proteins. Those can be plant-based proteins. We do a lot of cold water, low mercury fish. And then meat is really treated as a condiment. So rather than our normal standards where meat's half the plate, it's something to kind of flavor the food.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just an accessory to the meal.
It's an accessory, exactly. And then finally, I would say the last major category is low glycemic fruits with a major emphasis on the berries.
Okay. So we're talking all about the good things. What falls on the avoid list for this diet?
Okay, well, I would say probably you already guessed this, but processed foods. Right. Okay. So we're doing whole foods instead. But the tricky part here is that it's not just the processed foods that look like they're super unhealthy. Nowadays, there's a lot of processed foods, junk foods that are really marketed as health foods.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're really careful to avoid those things as well.
Are there certain ones that stand out in your mind that you've seen?
All the bars.
Store? All the bars,
it's the bars for me that just, you would think they're going to save your life when you read the label on some of these bars.
Organic, non-GMO, protein
all
packed.
natural, all these things. And they're, candy bars, glorified candy bars most of the time. I'm sure there are exceptions. So yeah, we cut out the processed foods. We also cut out simple carbohydrates and stick with the complex carbohydrates. We cut out simple sugars that aren't packaged with fruits, and we cut out non-nutritive sweeteners for the most part.
Okay. Is there a scientific basis behind that?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably twofold, and not all of these things apply to all non-nutritive sweeteners, so you got to be kind of careful with it. But some of them have been shown in studies to greatly decimate the microbiome. So specifically Splenda is a study that I'm thinking of that came out of Duke University, where they looked at before and after a dose of Splenda, and it really just reduced the overall population of the microbiome, which is problematic.
People, they think about these fake sugars and they think, oh, well, it doesn't produce a glycemic response, so there's nothing wrong with it. And there are these far-reaching effects now that we're learning. There are,
and we still don't know everything that there is to know, which is why I would also say best to avoid for the most part.
Yeah.
And finally, they're processed. So
that's true.
Yeah, these are processed things, whereas maybe a little bit of raw honey might be a better choice for some people, even though that does have a small glycemic response.
Okay, so getting back to nature, which is kind of what we advocate in all healthy eating patterns.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah. Back to what we were saying, so other things we eliminate or greatly reduce, gluten, which is a really controversial one. So we can go into why that is.
Sure, yeah, please do share. I know gluten is a hot button topic.
It is. So I would say there are a couple reasons why. And the main overarching theme here is that our gut epithelial layer, the protective barrier of our gut, is directly linked to the protective layer of our brain, or the blood-brain barrier. So we know now from a lot of research from Fasano and others that there are peptides in gluten that are indigestible by everyone. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they would be a problem for everyone to eat, but it is true. So we also know that gliadin, a component in gluten, can cause transient openings in the epithelial layer. So the issue here is that when our immune system has these micro openings, even if transiently, the immune system kind of is able to peek through. And when it notices these undigested peptides, it can initiate an immune response. And another way of putting that is that it can initiate low-grade inflammation. Now, again, I'm not necessarily saying that everyone in the world should avoid gluten all the time, because that's not the case, in my opinion.
But specifically these patients.
Yes, who have a risk of cognitive decline because the issues within the epithelium, within their gut layer, problems in the gut barrier, can manifest as problems in the brain barrier.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
No, no, that's great. We want all the information we can get here. So we also hear a lot about fasting and the benefits of fasting for the brain. Is that something that you guys implement?
Definitely. And I know your viewers know a lot about fasting.
I hope they do.
I think they do. And so they also know that there are different types of fasting. And I would say most likely all, if not very many, types of fasting would be beneficial in this population. But the one that we use most often is called time-restricted eating. And basically what that means is that we limit the amount of hours in the day where someone eats.
Okay.
So a good rule of thumb that we use for the average person is a 12-hour fast overnight.
It's doable.
Definitely doable. Now, depending on someone's genetic risk and what we can see from their genes, we do sometimes increase this fast anywhere from 12 then to 16 hours.
Okay.
But that's an individualized aspect of the protocol that
Okay.
we're talking about. The other fast that we do is a 3-hour fast, and that's between the last thing you eat at night and going to bed.
And that kind of loops into the overall 12-hour fast then.
It does, yeah. So it counts as part of the 12.
So you bring up genetics. We are learning a lot about different genetic risk factors with Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases, and specifically about APOE4.
Yeah.
So what do we know about the genetic variant APOE4 and its connection to Alzheimer's?
Okay, well, do you want to go into what that means, the APOE in general, or do the
Abbreviated.
Okay. So everyone has 2 copies of APOE.
Okay.
And there are 3 different variants.
Right,
So,
so
2, 3, and 4. Okay. So APOE4 is the one that is associated the most with Alzheimer's disease. One copy of APOE4 is generally associated with a 30% chance of Alzheimer's, and 2 copies is anywhere from a 50 to a 90% chance.
Wow.
Now, the APOE...
So it's pretty, it's maybe definite for some people.
But it's not.
Oh.
It's not 100.
Good.
So again, and I have to make it really clear, you can have no copies of APOE and get Alzheimer's. You can have 2 copies and not get Alzheimer's.
Exactly.
So all of these lifestyle things that we're talking about, those play a huge part in
Right.
whether or not we actually get a disease. And testing, as you know and as your viewers know, is not diagnostic. So it just tells us our risk.
It's a risk, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, the general public, I think I read this yesterday actually, by the time you're 80, your risk of Alzheimer's is between 6 to even 9% for anyone, regardless of APOE status.
Exactly. So we were talking about women?
Yeah, so now, do women have a higher risk than men? I've also heard of that.
Yeah. So what they've seen in the research is that women who have a copy of APOE4 have a greater impact from that gene than men do.
Oh, okay.
And they've seen this in things like brain atrophy. So women with APOE4 have greater brain atrophy than men do.
Shrinking of the brain.
The shrinking of the brain. And they also have decreased metabolism in the brain compared to men with
Okay.
APOE4.
Which is one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's,
It
right?
is,
The
yeah.
inability to efficiently use energy
Correct.
in the brain.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So, given what we know about the connection, would you suggest that people who know that they have APOE4 and are at a greater risk start implementing some of these strategies earlier in life before they have signs and symptoms?
Oh my gosh, 1,000% yes, I do. And that's why I really encourage people to test, because we can do something about it. So what you were saying about the hallmark, the decreased fuel utilization that's associated with Alzheimer's disease, in APOE4 carriers as young as age 30, we see that same decreased utilization.
Wow.
Yeah, so no signs and symptoms at all because
Yeah.
they're 30.
Right.
But we still see that issue. So the brain is starving, or parts of the brain are not getting the fuel that they need. And we can work around that with something called mild ketosis. That's much more mild even than what we use for Alzheimer's patients.
Okay. So how would one achieve the mild ketosis?
Yeah.
Where does that line
Okay.
drawn?
Well, so I recommend testing because that's the only way to know.
Okay.
First of all. And I also recommend that people are wary of ketogenic diets, because if you
Okay.
Googled that right now,
Yeah, because that's immediately where people's minds go when they
Yep,
hear this.
Exactly, just like pork rinds and cream cheese and all kinds of other things.
High
that-
saturated fat,
Yeah.
high meat.
Right, and so from what we were just talking about, this is a plant-based diet that can put someone into a state of ketosis, without a doubt. So how you do it matters just as much as whether or not you're in ketosis.
Okay.
So I recommend testing. You can get ketone meters that are very similar to or the same as a blood glucose meter that diabetics use. And it's the most reliable way at this point. There are also other ways to test ketones that aren't as reliable yet.
Okay.
So it's super simple. You can buy it yourself, do it yourself, not a big deal.
Is there a range you recommend?
Yes.
Okay.
So for someone who, let's say, has no signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's, let's say like that 30-year-old hypothetical APOE4 positive patient, we would look for a beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is a ketone, abbreviated by BHB.
Okay.
And that's what this little meter actually tests, your level of BHB, from 0.3 to 0.5 millimolar.
Okay.
For someone with cognitive decline, it's a different range.
It's a different range, right? Okay. And how about, I'm sure people are wondering how they can even find out if they are a carrier of the APOE4. Is there a specific test or group that you use that you recommend?
Yeah, so, most doctors would be able to do this for you.
Okay.
But again, I like to be able to do things for myself. And 23andMe, which is a genetic testing kit that you just order and it comes to your house. You spit in a little tube and send it back, and it won't tell you exactly what your APOE status is, but it will tell you whether you have 0, 1, or 2 copies of APOE4.
Yes, so I actually was just looking on mine yesterday and saw that they added that in because before they didn't give you that information.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
so
very
nice.
valuable.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of barriers before they give it to you because this is such life-altering information possibly.
Yeah, definitely. And it shouldn't be done lightly. So while I encourage everyone to do it, make sure you're in the right headspace for it. Make sure that you've talked to someone knowledgeable about what it means, what can be done before doing it, so that you feel good about whatever the result is.
So we're talking about a lot of people with risk factors or actually having these cognitive disorders, but everybody should be worried and concerned and protecting their brain health. So what types of things do you recommend for just overall good brain health?
Gosh, well, I would argue it's the same for just overall health.
Okay.
Our brain health and our overall health. The body is one big system, So everything that you do with your predominantly plant-based, those meal plans, I would say that those are definitely going to promote great cognitive health.
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
the plug.
But so other specific things, if someone was really looking for little things, we do need a lot of fats for our brain. Our brain is made up of primarily fat, and so supplying the brain with lots of fats, both for energy and for components of cells, is really important. So again, I mentioned some cold water fish. I'm definitely a big fan, but again, the mercury, heavy metals in general, are a big issue with a lot of chronic diseases. So I would stick with the low mercury fish. We remember that with an abbreviation, SMASH.
Oh, I haven't heard this one.
So salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring.
I love that.
Yeah, so you might have to be adventurous for some of those. Some of those
right,
sound
not everybody loves anchovies,
maybe
but
not.
you could potentially get on board.
Yeah, or you could try out, I'm sure you'll have some recipes coming for us soon, right?
Yeah, we'll collaborate on this.
But so anyway, so the fish are great. And then other high-fat foods like walnuts are definitely really brain healthy. And again, the berries have been shown just to have such strong, high levels of phenolic compounds, which are just really good for overall cellular health.
Specific berries, all berries?
Blueberries have definitely gotten the most attention.
Okay.
And rightly so. There are a lot of really great components, brain healthy components in blueberries. But I would say, have fun with it, get some variety. Variety is just really important in general.
Absolutely.
We all tend to eat
the rainbow.
Yeah, exactly. And we normally eat the same fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So, being adventurous, maybe the next time you're at the grocery store, you pick up something you haven't normally tried,
Now, what does the research say about fish oil supplements as opposed to eating whole fish for brain health?
Yeah, so I would say fish oil supplementation can certainly be a huge benefit, but I am very wary of doing blanket supplementation for just populations of people. Specifically with Alzheimer's disease, there are certain categories of people who taking a fish oil supplement would be very dangerous for. So you do need to check with someone who's knowledgeable about this, like your functional medicine practitioner or dietitian.
Or a registered dietitian who specializes in this.
Exactly.
Because again, as you said, it is an individualized protocol while we're talking about all of these foods and things that benefit everyone. With your patients, there is a million different little things that you tweak based on their specific condition.
Exactly. So
not all of them would get a fish oil supplement then?
No, they would not. And in the right patient, it can be very beneficial though. What I would also say, the caveat to that is being very careful about where you source your supplements from, especially with fish oil. So we're normally so careful to avoid farmed fish, get wild caught, but so if your fish oil has something in it that you don't want, that can be extremely problematic as well.
Okay.
So sourcing is really important.
Now, what about for our vegans and vegetarians? Is the algal oil supplements that you can get as beneficial as eating the fish or or having fish oil?
So from the little bit of research that I've seen, and I'm certainly no expert, it's about as bioavailable. So I would say if you're vegan, vegetarian, you want to avoid the fish oil, stick with the algal oil. It's also arguably more sustainable. So there could be real benefits to algal oil.
Another predominantly plant-based reason to
There
try
we
it
go.
out.
Yeah.
Now, what about other lifestyle habits? Because I know you don't just focus on diet.
No, yeah, definitely. So physical activity is huge. We normally recommend an hour 5 times a week.
Okay.
At a minimum, and then more, and then an active lifestyle on top of that. And when we do that hour of physical activity, we're normally looking for a combination of cardiovascular, muscle strengthening, mobility, and balance. Balance is really important in this population. We also do brain training.
Oh,
yes.
What does that involve?
Oh my gosh. So it's a computer program. And the one that we recommend is called Brain HQ. It was developed by neuroscientists. And it's like a computer game that's not that fun because they're designed to be challenging. So but it's like...
It doesn't let you win easily.
Doesn't let you win, really. But it's like taking your brain to the gym. So just like our bodies need physical activity, your brain needs exercise as well. So this is a way of allowing that to happen.
Give it a little workout.
Give it a little workout.
I actually tried one of those games after you told me
Did
about
you
it, and
really?
it was kind of fun. It was like Duck Hunt, right?
Yeah, like the Hawkeye one.
Yeah,
maybe?
so you're like
I get really
knocking off
frustrated
this
by
bird.
them. Yeah.
If anyone had a Nintendo back in the day.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of like that.
Yeah. Back to the supplements for a second.
Yeah.
You have very specialized regimens for your patients with supplementation. Are there any supplements, well, you said you didn't like blanket supplements, but are there any that you think are generally good for the overall population for brain health?
I hate to even say, just because, you know.
And people are gonna go buy it immediately.
And you never know, and like it is important just to check. So, for example, there was a lot of people who tell you, oh, vitamin D, like we all need it, and that's true, but you don't want too much either. So we do need to be careful and do some tests before doing that. I would say the one thing to be really wary of is any supplement that sounds too good to be true.
Most of them.
Well, yeah, and sometimes like these huge claims, I'm always, you know, there is no cure. Like there is no cure-all for this or any chronic disease, really. So this program, if there's one takeaway, it's so hard. There are so many things, but so worth it. So,
the risks are high,
yeah,
but the reward is high.
So high. You know, you're getting your life back if you have Alzheimer's. So,
are there any supplements that you hear right away, red flag, you don't need that, you shouldn't be taking that? Like we hear like CoQ10. Everyone should be taking CoQ10 for brain health. Older adults.
Right. Actually, there's a lot of benefit to CoQ10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is not a bogus one.
It's not a bogus one. No. And off the top of my head, I can't think of anything too bogus. I just think anything that's just too good to be true probably is.
Okay. So again, dosage, personal needs, those all come into play. You can't just take a supplement and think it's going to have a blanket effect.
Not in my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we missed that you want to share with our audience about what you guys do?
Well, I think the main thing I would want to say is that what for so long has been a really devastating diagnosis doesn't have to be anymore. This is incredibly powerful information. And what's even more incredible is that we are the ones who have the power. We don't need, you know, some almighty practitioner to tell us to do what we need to do on this. We can do it ourselves, you know. So you might need some guidance to know what to do, but in the end of the day, it's on you. So the power is in your hands. And I think that's great.
That is incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
And especially what you've talked about. Yeah, it may be a big transition for people in the beginning and a little bit challenging, but generally we're just talking about healthy lifestyle habits that are beneficial anyway.
Yeah, that are just good for overall health.
Well, this is so exciting. I'm so thrilled for you and to see where your practice is going, where the research is going.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more about it, they can head over to your website, amosinstitute.com.
Yep.
Follow you on social. What's your social handles?
Amos Institute on Instagram and the Amos Institute on Facebook.
And if you guys like this video, please like it below. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in the comments. I'm sure Amylee would be happy to
More than happy.
chime in and answer them. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe so that you don't miss any of the rest of our nutrition information videos that come up. And thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks, Amy.